Close your eyes and picture a Roman gladiator. What do you see? I bet it's a warrior carved from marble, with chiseled abs and lean, powerful muscles, looking a lot like Russell Crowe in the movie Gladiator. He's an elite fighting machine, fueled by roasted meats and brutal discipline. That image is iconic. It's powerful. And it's almost completely wrong. For centuries, this Hollywood version of history is what we all believed. But what if I told you the real gladiators were less like chiseled bodybuilders and more like modern-day sumo wrestlers? And that their secret weapon wasn't a high-protein diet but a thick porridge of barley and beans washed down with a bizarre drink made from plant ash? Welcome to 10-Minute History. I'm your host, Jake Sullivan, and today we're digging up the bones of the past to uncover the shocking truth about the gladiator diet and meet the real Barley Men of Rome. Our first clue that the Hollywood myth was wrong comes from an ancient Roman writer named Pliny the Elder. In his massive encyclopedia written in the 1st century, he casually mentions that gladiators were nicknamed hordearii. That name comes from the Latin word for barley, hordeum. So hordearii literally means barley eaters or barley men. For a long time, historians thought this was probably an insult. In Roman society, wheat was the food of citizens and soldiers. Barley was considered inferior, a food for animals and the poor. Calling a gladiator a barley man could have been a way to look down on them, to remind everyone of their low social status. But what if it wasn't an insult? What if it was just a literal description of what they ate every single day? That question hung in the air for centuries, a curious footnote in history. Then, in 1993, everything changed. Archaeologists working near the ancient city of Ephesus, in modern-day Turkey, stumbled upon a unique cemetery. It wasn't a typical family graveyard. This was a mass burial site filled with the remains of at least 68 men, almost all of them in their 20s and 30s. Their bones were covered in the marks of a violent life, healed fractures, blunt force trauma, and the telltale cuts of swords and tridents. Tombstones at the site sealed the deal, with carvings of gladiatorial equipment that confirmed their identity. This was a gladiator graveyard. For the first time, scientists had direct, physical evidence from the gladiators themselves. A team of forensic anthropologists from Vienna, led by Karl Groschmidt and Fabian Kahns, got permission to study the bones. They brought with them the cutting-edge tools of modern science, and what they found sent shockwaves through the historical community. The bones had a story to tell, and it proved that Pliny the Elder's nickname was no insult. It was the truth. The basic principle behind their research is simple: you are what you eat. The chemical elements from your food are absorbed by your body and become a permanent record in your bones. By analyzing the chemical makeup of these 2,000-year-old skeletons, the scientists could reconstruct the gladiators' diet with stunning accuracy. First, they looked at nitrogen isotopes. Nitrogen levels in your bones can tell scientists where you stood on the food chain. Herbivores have low nitrogen levels, while carnivores have high levels. The team compared the gladiator bones to the bones of regular citizens buried in Ephesus around the same time. The results were astonishing. The gladiators had significantly lower nitrogen values, meaning they ate very little, if any, animal protein. They were, for all intents and purposes, vegetarians. This discovery alone was huge, but the next finding was the real smoking gun. The team analyzed the ratio of strontium to calcium in the bones. Strontium is a mineral that plants absorb from the soil. Your body absorbs it just like calcium and deposits it in your bones. Because the body prefers calcium, strontium gets filtered out as you move up the food chain. So plant eaters have very high levels of strontium in their bones, while meat eaters have very low levels. The gladiators' bones had strontium levels that were off the charts. They were astronomically high, even higher than other ancient vegetarians. This told the scientists two things. One, it confirmed the gladiators were on a nearly exclusive plant-based diet. And two, it meant they were consuming something else, something incredibly rich in strontium that the average person wasn't eating. So what was on the menu for these barley men? Combining the scientific data with the writings of ancient physicians like Galen, who actually worked as a doctor in a gladiator school, we can paint a clear picture. The staple of their diet was a thick, calorie-dense porridge or stew. Think of it as a gladiator mash. It was made primarily from barley and wheat, mixed with beans, lentils, and peas. This wasn't a gourmet meal. It was fuel. It was cheap, easy to make in huge quantities, and packed with complex carbohydrates for slow-release energy. The legumes, like beans and lentils, provided all the protein they needed. This brings us back to that mystery of the sky-high strontium levels. The scientists proposed a brilliant hypothesis. They believed the gladiators were drinking a special recovery drink after their grueling training sessions. A drink made of plant ash. It sounds disgusting, but the science is sound. When you burn wood and plants, the ash left behind is a concentrated source of all the minerals the plant pulled from the ground. It's incredibly rich in calcium, potassium, magnesium, and, you guessed it, strontium. The gladiators would have mixed this ash with water or maybe vinegar to help dissolve the minerals and chugged it down. This gritty, gray liquid would have been the ancient world's first true sports drink. After sweating all day, this ash drink would have rapidly replenished their electrolytes, prevented muscle cramps, and aided recovery. Even more importantly, the massive dose of calcium and strontium would have made their bones incredibly strong and dense, helping them resist and heal fractures. So now we know what they ate. The bigger question is why? Why would you feed elite fighters a diet that an ancient doctor, Galen, described as making their bodies fleshy and flabby? The answer is pure, brutal pragmatism. The goal wasn't to look like a statue. The goal was to survive. This high-carbohydrate, calorie-surplus diet was designed to put a thick layer of subcutaneous fat over their muscles. This layer of fat was a form of natural armor. In a fight with swords and tridents, a slashing cut that might sever a muscle or an artery on a lean person would only result in a bloody but superficial flesh wound on a padded gladiator. This had two huge benefits. First, it protected their vital muscles and organs, dramatically increasing their chances of surviving a fight. Second, it made for a better show. The crowd wanted spectacle. A fighter who goes down from the first cut is boring. But a fighter who can take multiple cuts, bleeding all over the sand but still fighting on, is the stuff of legends. The fat layer allowed for more dramatic, bloody, but ultimately less lethal combat. And, of course, there was the economic angle. The man who owned the gladiator school, the lanista, was a businessman. Barley and beans were vastly cheaper than meat. This diet was the most cost-effective way to build a stable of strong, resilient fighters who were less likely to die from a single wound, protecting the lanista's very expensive investment. This whole system, from the diet to the ash drink to the intense training, was a form of ancient sports science. It was designed to produce a very specific type of athlete, one who was durable, had incredible stamina, and was built for the brutal reality of the arena. What's fascinating is how this 2,000-year-old dietary strategy echoes in the modern world. For decades, we've been told that elite athletes, especially in strength and combat sports, need meat to build muscle. But today, a growing number of world-class athletes are proving that wrong. Ultra-marathoners, UFC fighters, and NFL linemen are adopting plant-based diets, citing faster recovery and longer careers. They are, in a way, the modern-day Barley Men, challenging the exact same assumptions the gladiators did. And that recovery drink? Modern athletes chug down scientifically formulated shakes packed with electrolytes like potassium and minerals like calcium to recover after a workout. The gladiators were doing the same thing, just with a gritty glass of ash and water. So the next time you see a movie about Roman gladiators, remember the real story. Forget the chiseled, lean-bodied hero. Instead, picture a brawnier, bulkier fighter. A powerful man built not for a magazine cover, but for survival. He was a Barley Man, a high-performance, plant-powered athlete, fueled by a humble diet and a bizarre mineral tonic that made him one of the toughest and most resilient fighters the world has ever known. The science in their bones proves that sometimes the truth of history is far stranger and far more fascinating than any myth. So, what are your thoughts on this? Does the reality of the Barley Man change how you see gladiators? Let us know down in the comments. If you found this interesting or learned something new, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to 10-Minute History for more deep dives. Thanks for listening.